Well, the distinguished speakers, international guests, Professor Hassan, young students, I come here as a science communicator, not as an astronomer or as an amateur astronomer. And in fact, I am a learner before all of you. But my connection with science communication for last 35 years, we have been associated with a number of programs, including solar eclipse. So that's very little connection I have with this conference. I was very surprised and in fact amazed to see there is this conference which happens annually. That's my ignorance, I didn't know it earlier, that annual conference on solar eclipses. Very interesting. So what I would like to speak a little bit is mostly aimed at the young students who are sitting behind all of you, not for you experts in the field, but nevertheless, it's important. What I felt was important for me to say a few words to inaugurate this conference. So solar eclipses have been recorded in as events for centuries. References have been found in some of our earliest texts, including the ancient Chinese texts. And I think one of the very important events which is historical for India is Mahabharata, in epic, 1500 years back or more than that. And a group in TIFR in Mumbai worked on finding the dates of that particular event. And they came to notice that, that time when the war of Mahabharata was fought, the rules of the war are decided in advance, that you can't fight after sunset. So what happened in one particular day, the war, I think it was the 7th day, if I'm not wrong, the war ended after 3 hours of fight. So people are surprised how the sunset happened before the actual time that should have been. So it has been depicted as that was a total solar eclipse. That's why the sun disappeared for a while and the war ended. Fortunately, the war was half a day, so it was good for humanity anyway. So easy to imagine how our earliest ancestors have reacted to the sudden disappearance of the sun. And over time, the phenomena has been seen in both fascinating and terrifying as a signal of displeasure of gods or an omen of bad things to come. That's what I tell you, this is one of the biggest challenge for all of us science communicators to eradicate this misconception that it is a natural phenomena and doesn't affect humanity, doesn't affect anybody's life. And if at all there is a research, I don't know about it. And in fact, people say that during the eclipse you should not eat food because it gets contaminated by bacteria. I don't know how that bacteria suddenly appears during the eclipse. Well, that I think all of us have to, as scientists, have to eradicate this misconception. The astronomer, science communicator is a great opportunity to make observations, measurements, and investigate, as well as to again re-emphasize the significance of the astronomy, study of astronomy for young students and general public. They happen only, the eclipse, solar eclipse, only during the new moon day when the moon moves the side of the earth. And in fact, it's a very interesting question, and the size and the distance of the moon is such that it just fits the entire circle of the sun. And that's why you get total. Had the moon been little away or little smaller in size, we never would have had solar eclipses. In fact, the moon is going away, and after a billion years probably there will be no total solar eclipse. That's also a phenomenon that's going to come. So what can you do during the eclipses? The solar prominence, for example, are easily visible along the edge of during the solar eclipse. Otherwise, you can't see them because they are less brighter than the corona, the center of the sun. So you can't observe them otherwise. So during the eclipse, you can see these prominences very easily, and it's a good opportunity for scientists to study them. For astronomers, the total solar eclipse forms a rare opportunity to observe corona. Normally, this is not visible during the photosphere is much brighter, as I told you earlier. So the solar cycle, the corona may appear small and symmetric, and the large and fuzzy. It is very hard to predict this prior to a totality. So during totality, you can observe this. There is a long history of observation of gravity-related phenomenon during solar eclipses, especially around totality. In 1954, again in 1955, Maurice Elias reported observation of strange, unexplained movement along the solar eclipses. The phenomena is now called Elias effect. Many of you know that. Similarly, Saxel and Allen in 1970 observed sudden change in motion of torsion pendulum, and this phenomena is now called as Saxel effect. A marked drop of intensity of solar radiation occurs during the solar eclipse. It influences the actions on the atmosphere. So, some of the meteorological phenomena might affect because of the temperature change. And some of the very interesting examples during solar eclipse, Pierre Janssen, a French astronomer, discovered helium in 1868. He was observing a total solar eclipse in India at that time when he noticed the yellow spectral emission lines of the element appeared. An English astronomer by name Norman Lockyer observed the same spectra and proposed the name helium after the Greek name for the sun, Helios. So, helium can be observed at 587.49 nanometers in the spectrum of the chromosphere of the sun, and this can be done during solar eclipse as a school experiment. I will cite another school experiment which was done by Professor Dr. N.C. Rana in 1995 total solar eclipse. He took thousands of children in Pune, lined them up and tried to measure the movement of moon's shadow. And he was trying to find out the exact diameter of the sun. Is there any variation on the perceived calculated values? In fact, there was evidence at that time the exact diameter of the sun is slightly different than what normally we know about. And in fact, he died before he could publish his research work. So, this is how solar eclipse becomes so important for all of us, especially the young students. So, NCSM as an organization which I belong to, this is a network of about 53 science centers in India, has been utilizing solar eclipse as a phenomenon, as an event to popularize astronomy and space sciences. And I know space as an organization which Mr. Bamba is looking after, I think it's a unique experiment. I'm only praising two organizations in India who are outside the government network. One is space, who does a lot of work on astronomy and space. Another, that is an organization called Agastya Foundation in South India, does wonderful science propagation programs for rural children. So, the volunteer effort of space to promote astronomy and space sciences, as well as create widespread awareness of this the topics by engaging general public, students and teachers. Space has done wonderful work. I congratulate them for the work they are doing in India. Especially their activities are laudable. They develop lot of simple props to do observations, to observe the sky and develop and which are reasonably cheaper, not very expensive in cost, and so that is very appreciable. In fact, that was well deserved and India needed it. You know, one thing we lack in India in science education program is props and experimental material that anybody can handle. And if beauty of science and joy of doing science is only through real experimentation, real observation, not the simulation on the multimedia in the computers. So, I would like all you young students, especially if you have to do science, if you have to get the joy of doing science and register your name as somebody who has made contribution to new knowledge, I think you have to do experimentation, you have to toil, you have to observe skies and become great astronomers or space scientists tomorrow. I therefore congratulate and thank space for this endeavor that they are doing in India, and they have not only confined to Delhi now, they have spread their wings across the country. I am sure they will shortly, they will have much more network all over India. And now one interesting example, I think somebody can validate this to me. One French scientist, you know, sometimes eclipses can cause you personal losses. One French scientist who came to observe eclipse, I do not know the year, probably he was the same gentleman, Pierre Johnson. If the story was told to me by an astronomer, he came to India to observe solar eclipse, and he was in Lakshadweep area in a boat ready for observation. Unfortunately, the sky was covered by clouds and they did not disappear. So this gentleman decided to stay in India till the next solar eclipse. And he did. It was transit of Venus? Okay, transit of Venus. All right. Okay, maybe. And you know what happened to him? When he went back, by the time his wife had married to somebody else. So he lost his wife. So sometime doing astronomy can cause you losses. Be aware of it. That's what I would like to tell you. And you know, transit of Venus is coming shortly, and that's a big event. I'm sure space is going to do a number of programs. And I wish this conference a success, and especially the young students will take back a lot of knowledge, inspiration, motivation from these all amateur astronomers, and especially Professor Hassan, who is the director of the Indian Institute of Astrophysics in Bangalore, doing wonderful work, and I'm sure that he has planned number of activities for the transit of Venus as well. So we would like all you young students to take advantage and benefit of this. Thank you very much and wish you all the best.